If only one out of every three people on your team were engaged in your business in a smaller mid-sized business, you'd probably be out of business because every seat counts in a smaller mid-sized business.
Welcome to the New Talent Playbook Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit the newtalentplaybookpodcast.com, where you can download this episode's free workbook designed to help you apply today's insight to your business. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Welcome to the New Talent Playbook Podcast, and today is going to be a solo episode that I'm very excited for. So every year, Gallup puts out a report called the Annual State of the Global Workplace, and their 2026 report just came out. And I find these somewhat helpful. I'm a big fan of Gallup. They're a very credible organization. They do really good work. Now, that said, this report looks at the global workplace and they look at companies of all sizes. And while unfortunately they don't share the percentage of employees that are working at small and mid-sized businesses versus those at large, I always felt that they definitely tilt towards large, but there's still plenty of insights that you can get if you are running a small or mid-sized business. And the important thing to look for is that you want to look at the trends. Which way are things going? Because this is basically giving you a sense, looking at the workforce, what's going on culturally when it comes to the workforce and their work. Unfortunately, the news is not great. Take this with a grain of salt because every company is unique. And quite frankly, those companies with awesome cultures don't suffer from a lot of the disengagement. We'll get into that in a second, that companies with just okay or poor cultures suffer from. That said, as I mentioned, the insights that you can get from the trends, I think, are very valuable. So there were three parts of the report that stood out to me, and those are around employee engagement. They talk a little bit about a manager crisis, and it's the first time that I've ever dug into that. And I do think that's worth talking about. And then the third one is AI in the workforce and a little bit more. And I'll get into all of these over the next few minutes. So let's first talk about engagement. The engagement of the US workforce is higher than it is globally. So they're saying it's 31% versus 20% globally. Now, by the way that they define engagement is the psychological connection between the employee and the employer. And this is really important because I'm a firm believer that people work to have a life. You don't live to work. And I think it's important for employers to keep that in mind. That said, it's challenging for so many different reasons, tons of change going on. And for those 8 or so hours that people are working for you, you really need their all. So the trends have not been good. The engagement of the workforce, both globally and in the US, have been declining. This year is no different. Now, I really do believe that this is largely a large company issue because if only one out of every three people on your team were engaged in your business in a smaller mid-sized business, you'd probably be out of business because every seat counts in a smaller mid-sized business. But with the trends, again, it's a sign of what's going on culturally. And this does have some effect at all small businesses, even those with a great culture. So let's just say that you appreciate that this trend is not going in the right direction. And even though maybe you do have a great culture, you might be saying, well, what can I do to make things better? I have a few things that I thought about that would make sense. And we're going to put links not only to the study, but to some Substacks that you might find helpful that will go into more detail with some of the suggestions that I'm about to share with you. First thing is check your Glassdoor score. Just type in Glassdoor, your company name, and most companies have an entry there. Now, if your score is not where you want it to be, and I think you want it to be over 4.0, if your score is not where you want it to be, take a look at the reviews, and you may have to set up an account or register or something to take a look at the reviews. Do that. And now that's where things will fall into one or two categories. You'll look at the reviews and go, oh, you know what? Those reviews are kind of accurate and there are some areas for improvement. Well, go ahead and start improving those areas. Now, if you feel that those reviews are not accurate, because let's remember that detractors are the ones that are going to post a lot more often than those who love working at your company. What we did several years ago when we finally looked at our Glassdoor scores and it wasn't where we thought it should be, and we didn't feel that the reviews were accurate, is we just simply asked our team to go onto Glassdoor and to post what they think about what it's like to work at Work Better Now. We didn't incentivize them. We didn't tell them what to say. We just did it that way. And you know what? Our scores went up. And then some simple things to, if you do want to make some improvements to your culture, a great place to start is looking at your core values, or if you don't have them, maybe create some core values. There's a lot that goes into this. Just really quickly, core values are important. The way I look at core values is when people have to make a decision, and people make probably hundreds of decisions every day, and they're not exactly sure what to do, you just look to those core values. Now, if you are creating core values or they're not where they should be, I would suggest pulling some of your top team members and figuring out what those core values should be. And you can be a little bit aspirational here. You can't go too far because also remember, you can change core values over time. I know Work Better Now, this is something that we're going to be looking at later this year, updating our core values given how the company's changed. But the whole idea is to define some core values, get them on paper, disseminate them to the company, give examples of what it looks like when you're living these core values day in and day out. Another thing to do is recognize people. Everybody loves to be recognized. You could put recognition programs in that are not big lifts. They don't have to be expensive if they have any cost at all. To that end, if you just simply Google Work Better Now W Awards, you'll see a blog post that where we talk about the recognition program that we put into place about 4 years ago. We still put it in, it's still in use today. Our team loves it. It's easy, it's very inexpensive, and people, like I said, people love to get recognized. You should see the look on everybody's face because we're a 100% remote company. We do this on Teams. When they get recognized in front of their peers, it's awesome. And lastly, having some plans for internal mobility at your company. So, are there pathways for people to grow, particularly the strong performers? Those are the ones you really want to look at. You want them engaged, and you certainly don't want them looking around elsewhere because they have nowhere else to go in your company. So, having some sort of formal internal mobility program is the way to go there. So, that's about what I have to say on the declining employee engagement, both in the US and around the world.
The reviews are in, and leaders are calling Rob Levin's new book a game changer. The New Talent Playbook, the ultimate guide to building your dream team, is now available, and it's your roadmap to winning the war for talent and scaling with total confidence. Don't just take our word for it. Order your copy today and see why it's a must-read for every SMB leader. Find it on Amazon.com or learn more at thenewtalentplaybook.com.
The next topic, the manager crisis, I've never really focused in on this before, but as I read about it and as I thought about it, it made a lot of sense. So engagement is declining among managers. And interestingly, this is due to things like stress and anger. And apparently managers are quite burned out. Once again, I think this is mostly a large company issue. That said, there are definitely things that are going to apply to a lot of small businesses. Because what I think about here is when you have low employee engagement, who's really suffering there? The managers are, because either they're having to cover up for the work, asking other people to chip in. Usually your A players are covering up for those C players. And that could become stressful not only for the A player, but for the managers. So what to do about this? Again, everything I said about culture earlier would apply here. But I'll throw in a couple of other things that you should really think about. Number one is hire better people. And we will put some links to some Substack posts I put on hiring A players. And that involves everything from having a good Glassdoor score, because the top people that are looking for work, they are very particular about the companies that they work for, and they are checking you out online before they even apply. Hiring better people is going to reduce the stress on managers. And the other thing, a lot of people don't think about this, but having a company culture that includes replacing poor performers quickly. Poor performers are probably what's creating a lot of the stress on managers. What I'm not going to go into here, but it's worth thinking about, is are the directives from the leadership team, from yourself as the owner and other leaders that the managers are reporting into, are those directives clear? Is there clarity? Are they realistic? I don't mean like that you're not stretching people, you should, but are they realistic and clear? And often that could be a source of tension at the manager level. And the last area from this Gallup report that I want to talk about is AI. And the big headline, which I don't think is new because this headline is pretty pervasive, I see it in the Wall Street Journal at least a couple times a month, is that companies are spending big on AI, but they're not seeing the results. Once again, I think this is largely a big company thing. That said, there are many things that small businesses can and should be doing in order to fully leverage AI. And to that extent, I want to say that I do believe that within a few years, companies that are not leveraging AI and automation, those are two separate things that can often work very well together. Companies that are not leveraging AI and automation in the near future, we're talking the next few years, are going to have trouble competing. And when that happens, it depends on your industry. If you're in a blue collar industry like plumbing or contracting, it's probably not going to be coming up that quickly in terms of that inflection point of where you're really not leveraging AI to the extent that you should. It's going to detrimentally affect your business. Whereas in a white collar business, this is probably 2 years out or so. And at the end of the day, AI can make huge impacts on your business. Impacts that are probably bigger impacts than any other technology that I've ever seen. And I was around when email was being rolled out to companies and the internet became a thing. AI is going to have a much, much bigger impact than all of those things. So you can improve your effectiveness, you can improve your outcomes, your results for your clients, et cetera. You can obviously have better efficiency with AI. If you haven't seen it, you can watch or listen to my podcast on how WBN is becoming an AI first company. There's also a Substack on that. We will provide links to those as well. With now digging in a little deeper, where I see companies going right and wrong with their AI rollouts, because I speak with business owners about this all the time. Number one, don't obsess over, well, which LLM should we be using? I'll share a little bit about my thoughts on the different LLMs, but it's really not about the LLMs. I'm going to come back to that in a second. First, I'll share my thoughts on what we're using with LLMs. And I'll tell you that I don't think there's big differences because, and not only that, where there are differences, they're changing all the time in terms of what the capabilities of the LLMs are. They're all extremely powerful. To me, it's all about the interfaces. And for that reason, I'm very excited and I spend a lot of my time, my AI time, using Claude because I really like Cowork. Or some of you might be using Claude Code, which is sort of like code, but easier to use. And it's certainly not perfect. I've been having troubles with it this week. I'm really excited because I believe in May, Cowork is going to be integrated into Microsoft, and we're a Microsoft shop. And Cowork, it has unbelievable abilities. And this is all, Cowork is an example of an AI interface. It's how you're working with AI. And Cowork, just to make it really simple, you can give Cowork access to files rather than just constantly uploading when you need to. And I'm overstating some of the benefits of Cowork. Also, as I believe I mentioned in the podcast on BN's AI first transformation, we use a product called HATZ, which is basically a way for us to use different LLMs, but in a secure environment while attaching to some of our other data tools like HubSpot. And that's really powerful. And the team is getting a lot of benefit from that. Like I said, I don't think that choosing the right LLM is that important. It's really where the best place to start is with a process or a workflow that is very human intensive. And if you're not sure where to start, ask AI. Just say, hey, we're this type of a company and we do this type of work. We have these departments. Where should we start with getting the benefits of AI? And have always, when you're sending a prompt, have AI ask you, in this case, I would maybe say 5 to 8 questions one at a time so they can get better context about the work that you do and where the potential is for AI to make an impact. From there, I guess I have two different branches of suggestions. One is as the owner or as an executive in a company, I really think you have to get a better understanding of AI yourself. That doesn't just come from, spending time prompting with AI. That means building something with AI, whether that's a GPT that other people can use or almost like a mini website. All of these things can be done within hours, if not minutes. And once you start really experimenting with AI, I definitely recommend taking a hands-on course where you're building things. You'll start to understand the potential. That said, the second branch here that I want to talk about is identifying a few people on your team that are already playing around a little bit with AI and that are very eager to learn more and give them a task of, okay, finding a few workflows or identifying a few workflows that you can start to have AI do. And this is a great opportunity also to upskill them. So give them time to attend courses, whether they're free or whether you have to spend a few dollars, really doesn't matter. Have them spend some time in some courses and share what they're learning with the rest of the team and show what's working with AI as they're experimenting with different workflows and what's not. And that will get other people in the company a little bit more eager to try AI themselves. You do have to set some boundaries and be careful with data and personal identifiable information and stuff like that. All of the major LLMs offer free training. They cover things like that. Don't be afraid, jump in. This notion of Gallup saying that companies are spending a lot of money and not seeing any results, I don't doubt it. Again, I think it's a large company thing. And it really, to me, it's just a trigger for small and mid-sized businesses that it's time, the technology to do a lot of the work, where then you can take the people that are doing the work and have them manage AI, and this will give them the ability to be more creative about how they can improve the business. That technology exists today. It's there today, period, end of story. The interfaces are catching up, things like Claude Cowork, but the technology is there today, and those companies that develop a culture of, hey, we're going to really embrace AI and learn how to harness that technology, those companies are going to be ahead. And you certainly don't want to be one of those companies that are going to be falling behind. So I hope everybody found this solo podcast helpful, that I get excited about this Gallup report every year. Plenty of opportunity for companies. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. The New Talent Playbook podcast is brought to you by Work Better Now. Don't forget to review, subscribe, and download the workbook for this episode at the link below. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on LinkedIn at the New Talent Playbook Podcast or visit thenewtalentplaybookpodcast.com.